His wolf hasn't spoken in 3 years. Silent punishment for rejecting their mate. But when she returns, powerful and claimed by another alpha, Cassian tears the false bond from his throat in front of the entire pack. Choose me, he begs the woman he once destroyed. His wolf finally speaks. She's leaving forever unless you prove you've changed. Before we dive in, comment where in the world you are watching from, and don't forget to click subscribe. The moment Cassian Thornwood felt the mate bond snap into place, he knew his life was over. Not in the romantic, destiny-fulfilled way that songs and stories promised, but in the cold, political reality that had shaped his entire existence as alpha of the Nightshade Pack. Because the woman standing across the council chamber, her silver eyes wide with the same shock he felt, was nobody. Sarah Ashford, a low-ranking Omega from the poorest district of his territory, wearing a mended dress that had seen too many winters and carrying the scent of someone who worked with her hands for every meal she ate. The mate bond thrummed between them, insistent and undeniable, a golden thread of connection that made his wolf surge forward with possessive need. Mine, his wolf growled, the word reverberating through Cassian's consciousness with primal certainty. Claim her, protect her, love her. Mine forever. But Cassian had been raised to be alpha before he was raised to be a man, and he knew what accepting this bond would cost. His pack was in the middle of delicate negotiations with the Silvercrest Alliance, 3 powerful packs that controlled the Eastern Territories. Those negotiations hinged on Cassian's upcoming mating ceremony with Vivian Silvercrest, the daughter of their most influential alpha, a political union that would secure trade routes, military support, and economic prosperity for generations. Accepting Sarah as his mate would destroy everything. The alliance would crumble, his pack would lose crucial protections, and wolves who depended on him would suffer for his selfish desire to follow his heart instead of his duty. So Cassian did what he had been trained to do since childhood. He made the hard choice, the leadership choice, the choice that prioritized the many over the one. He looked at Sarah, at the hope and fear warring in her expression, at the way she unconsciously took a step toward him as the bond pulled them together, and he spoke the words that would shatter both their worlds. I, Cassian Thornwood, alpha of the Nightshade Pack, reject you, Sarah Ashford, as my mate. The bond cannot stand. You are dismissed. The words hit her like a physical blow. Cassian watched the color drain from her face, watched her hand come up to press against her chest where the bond was trying desperately to take root, watched tears begin to stream down her cheeks as the rejection tore through her. No, his wolf howled, the sound so anguished that Cassian actually staggered. What have you done? What have you done? She is ours. She is perfect. Take it back. Take it back. But Cassian couldn't take it back, not without destroying his pack's future. He forced his expression to remain cold, detached, even as his wolf raged against him with a fury he had never experienced. Sarah stood frozen for a long moment, her silver eyes locked on his face like she was searching for some sign that this was a mistake, that he didn't mean it. When she found none, when she saw only the alpha's mask he had perfected over years of leadership, something in her expression shifted from devastation to acceptance. You're rejecting me, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, because I'm not good enough for an alpha, because I'm poor and powerless and have nothing to offer. Her laugh was bitter, broken. Of course, why would I expect anything different? The mate bond doesn't care about status, Cassian wanted to say. You are perfect exactly as you are, and I am the fool who can't accept the goddess's gift. But those words would only make this harder, so he remained silent and let her believe the lie. Sarah wiped at her tears with shaking hands. I accept your rejection, Alpha Thornwood. May you find a mate worthy of your exacting standards. The formal words of acceptance sealed it. The mate bond which had barely begun to form, shattered between them like glass. Cassian felt it break, felt the severing like a physical wound, and his wolf's howl of anguish was so loud that he nearly collapsed from the psychic pain. Sarah turned and walked out of the council chamber, her spine straight despite the tremors racking her body, and Cassian watched her go without saying another word. The door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded like the ending of everything important. For 3 days after the rejection, Cassian's wolf refused to speak to him. The silence in his head, where his wolf's presence had been a constant companion since his first shift at 13, was deafening. He could still shift, still access his wolf's strength and senses, but the connection, the partnership that made a shifter whole, was gone. His wolf had turned away from him in disgust and grief, and nothing Cassian did could coax him back. On the 4th day, his wolf finally spoke. "You made your choice." The words were cold, empty of the warmth and loyalty that had always colored their relationship. "You chose politics over our mate, duty over destiny, and I will never forgive you for it." "I had no choice," Cassian argued, trying to make his wolf understand. "The Alliance, the Pack, they need this union with Silvercrest. Sarah would have suffered in this role. She would have been torn apart by pack politics and high society expectations." "You had every choice," his wolf snarled. "You could have chosen her, protected her, taught her, stood beside her against anyone who challenged. But you were a coward. You let fear dictate your decision, and now we both pay the price." "I am still your alpha," Cassian said, pulling, rank in desperation, "and I no longer recognize your authority." His wolf replied, with finality, "You are not fit to lead if you cannot even fight for your own mate. From this day forward, I am silent. You will have my strength when you shift, but nothing more. No guidance, no companionship, no partnership. You wanted to be alone in your decisions. Now you are alone in truth." And his wolf retreated into a silence so complete that Cassian felt it like a death. The mating ceremony with Vivian Silvercrest took place 6 weeks later, a grand affair attended by alphas from across the territories. Vivian was beautiful and accomplished, everything an alpha's mate should be on paper, and she smiled at Cassian with cool satisfaction as they exchanged vows that meant nothing to either of them. This was a business arrangement, and they both knew it. When Cassian marked her, claiming her as his mate in front of hundreds of witnesses, he felt nothing but emptiness. His wolf didn't stir, didn't react, didn't acknowledge the false bond being created. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Cassian wondered if Sarah felt the moment he bound himself to another, if the ghost of their severed mate bond burned with the betrayal. He told himself it didn't matter, that he had made the right choice for his pack. But as the celebration continued around him and Vivian hung on his arm playing the perfect Luna, Cassian felt hollower than he ever had in his life. The following months were torture. Cassian functioned as alpha, made decisions, led his pack, maintained the alliance. But every action felt mechanical, empty of the passion and conviction that had once driven him. His wolf remained silent, a constant absence that made him feel incomplete in ways he couldn't explain to anyone. Vivian was a competent Luna, efficient and politically astute. She managed pack affairs with cool precision and never complained about the lack of genuine affection between them. Their mating was consummated out of obligation, a clinical joining that left both of them unsatisfied, and they settled into a pattern of polite distance that everyone pretended was normal. But Cassian heard the whispers, heard pack members murmur about how their alpha had changed, how the fire had gone out of him, how he seemed to be going through the motions of leadership without real engagement. His enforcers reported more slowly, sensing his wolf's absence even if they didn't understand it. His beta, Marcus, finally confronted him 3 months after the mating ceremony. "You're not yourself," Marcus said bluntly as they stood in Cassian's office. "Your wolf. Something's wrong with your wolf. I can feel it." "He's silent," Cassian admitted, the first time he had voiced it aloud. "Since the rejection, he won't speak to me, won't guide me, won't do anything but grant me his strength when I shift." "Because you rejected your true mate," Marcus said quietly. And it wasn't a question. Word had spread quickly through the pack about what had happened in the council chamber, though most wolves assumed Cassian had been right to reject an unsuitable Omega. "I did what was necessary for the pack," Cassian said, but the words sounded hollow even to his own ears. "Did you?" Marcus challenged. "Because from where I'm standing, you've been half the alpha you used to be ever since. The alliance is secure, yes, but at what cost? You're miserable, your wolf has abandoned you, and that Omega, she left the territory entirely. No one knows where she went." Cassian's head snapped up. "Sarah left. When?" 2 months ago," Marcus replied. "Right after your mating ceremony. She packed what little she owned and walked out of Nightshade territory without telling anyone where she was going. Some say she went rogue. Others think she found another pack willing to take in a rejected Omega." The news hit Cassian harder than it should have. He had told himself that Sarah was better off without him, that she would heal from the rejection and find happiness elsewhere. But knowing she had left, that she was out there alone and unprotected, made his chest ache with a loss his wolf refused to let him forget. A year passed, then 2, then 3. Cassian settled deeper into his hollow existence, maintaining his political alliances, while slowly dying inside. His wolf's silence became a familiar companion to his own emotional numbness. Vivienne produced no heirs, and the pack healers delicately suggested that perhaps the problem lay in the lack of genuine bond between Alpha and Luna. The Silvercrest Alliance remained strong, trade flourished, the pack prospered economically. But there was something missing, a vitality that had drained away the day Cassian rejected his true mate. He filled his days with pack business and his nights with paperwork, anything to avoid thinking about Silver Eyes and the bond he had severed. Until the day a stranger arrived at the border of Nightshade territory requesting an audience with the Alpha. She came alone, riding a black horse and wearing traveling clothes that spoke of long distances covered, and when Cassian's border patrol brought her to the main house, he felt his wolf stir for the first time in 3 years. The woman who walked into his office was not the broken Omega, who had fled his rejection. She stood tall and confident, dressed in leather and silk that suggested wealth and status, with her white blonde hair pulled back in a warrior's braid and silver jewelry adorning her throat and wrists. But it was her eyes, those silver eyes that had haunted his dreams, that made recognition slam through Cassian like a physical blow. "Sarah," he breathed, rising from his desk as his wolf suddenly roared to life with desperate need. Her, still her, always her. Mate, mate, mate. "Hello, Alpha Thornwood," Sarah said, her voice cool and controlled. "Thank you for agreeing to see me. I believe we have some business to discuss." She looked nothing like the frightened Omega he remembered. This woman radiated power and confidence, and there was something else, an energy that made Cassian's alpha instinct sit up and take notice. "What happened to you?" he asked, unable to keep the shock from his voice. "Where have you been? I've spent the last 3 years discovering exactly who I am when I'm not defined by a mate bond," Sarah replied. "And learning that rejection, while painful, can also be the greatest gift anyone ever gave me." She moved further into the room, and Cassian caught her scent, familiar but altered, layered with something that made his wolf pace with agitation. "You smell different. I've been living with the Silver Moon Pack in the Northern Territories," she explained. "They have a very different philosophy about Omegas, about power, about what wolves are capable of when they're not limited by outdated hierarchies." Cassian felt something cold settle in his stomach. The Silver Moon Pack was legendary for their unorthodox practices, for training omegas as warriors, and allowing females to challenge for alpha positions. They were powerful and respected, but viewed as dangerously progressive by traditional packs like Nightshade. "You trained with them," he said. "I did more than train," Sarah corrected with a slight smile. "I thrived. Turns out when you're not being told you're worthless because of your rank, you can accomplish remarkable things. Their alpha, Kieran, he saw potential in me that you never bothered to look for." She paused deliberately. "He also offered to mate me." The words hit Cassian like a punch to the gut. His wolf snarled with possessive rage, and for the first time in 3 years, Cassian felt their minds align in perfect unity. "No," they both said simultaneously. Sarah's eyebrow arched. "No, you rejected me, remember? You made it abundantly clear that I wasn't good enough to be your mate. Why would you care who else wants me?" "Because you're mine," Cassian growled, his alpha power flooding the room as his wolf surged forward. "The mate bond may be broken, but you will always be mine." Now his wolf spoke, now when it's too late, the words dripping with bitter satisfaction. "Feel what you threw away, feel what you lost." Sarah didn't flinch under the weight of his dominance. If anything, she seemed amused. "I was yours," she corrected calmly. "Past tense. You rejected that claim the moment you chose political alliance over the mate bond." "I've moved on, Cassian. I've become someone new, someone strong enough that I don't need an alpha to validate my worth." "Then why are you here?" Cassian demanded, fighting to control the desperate need to touch her, to pull her close and prove she still belonged to him. "If you've moved on so completely, why come back?" "Because I'm not cruel enough to leave you completely in the dark about what's coming," Sarah said. "And because despite everything, I thought you deserved a warning." "A warning about what?" "About the fact that Kieran has asked me to be his mate and Luna of the Silver Moon Pack, and I'm considering accepting." She let the words hang in the air for a moment before continuing. "But before I make that decision, I wanted to see you one last time. I wanted to know if the mate bond still pulls at you the way it pulls at me, or if you've truly managed to forget what we could have been." "The mate bond is severed," Cassian said, but his voice cracked on the words. "You accepted my rejection. The connection is broken." "The formal bond is broken," Sarah agreed. "But you and I both know that true mate bonds don't ever completely disappear. There's still a thread between us, Cassian, thin and damaged, but there. I feel it every time I think about you, every time I try to imagine accepting another alpha." She moved closer, and Cassian's breath caught at her nearness. "So I'm here to ask you directly. If I walk out of this office and return to Kieran, if I accept his offer and let him claim me as his mate, will you care? Will it matter to you at all? Or have you convinced yourself that political alliances and duty are enough to build a life on?" Cassian stared at her, at the woman his mate had become, strong and beautiful, and so far beyond his reach now that it made him ache. His wolf was howling for him to drop to his knees and beg her forgiveness, to tell her that every day without her had been torture, that his wolf had abandoned him for his cowardice. But he was still alpha of the Nightshade Pack, still bound by the same political realities that had forced his rejection 3 years ago. "I'm mated to Vivian," he said, the words tasting like ash. "The alliance with Silvercrest stands. Even if I wanted to, I can't undo what's been done." "I'm not asking you to undo anything," Sarah said softly. "I'm asking if you care. That's all. Just tell me if it would matter to you if I gave myself to someone else, let another alpha mark me, bear his children, build a life that should have been ours." The question hung between them like a blade, and Cassian felt his carefully constructed walls beginning to crumble. "It would destroy me," he admitted, his voice raw. "Every day since I rejected you has been hell. My wolf won't speak to me except to remind me what a fool I am. I go through the motions of leadership while feeling empty inside because the one person who could make me whole is the one I sent away." He took a step toward her, then another, drawn by the pull of their damaged bond. So yes, Sarah, it would matter. It would matter more than anything. If Kieran claims you, if he marks you and makes you his, something in me will die completely. But that doesn't change my reality. I made a choice 3 years ago that I can't take back. Sarah's expression softened, just slightly, and Cassian saw a flash of the woman he remembered, vulnerable beneath the armor she had built. Then you understand exactly how I felt when you rejected me, she said quietly. That feeling of wanting something so desperately while knowing you can't have it, of seeing your future slip away because of circumstances beyond your control. Now you get to feel what you put me through. The cruelty of her words was undercut by the tears gathering in her eyes, and Cassian realized that beneath all her newfound strength and confidence, she was still hurting as much as he was. "I'm sorry," he said, and meant it with every fiber of his being. "I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to choose you. I'm sorry I let politics and duty override what my heart and my wolf were telling me. I'm sorry I hurt you, Sarah. More sorry than you'll ever know." "Your apology changes nothing," Sarah replied, but her voice had lost its edge. "You made your choice, and I've made mine. I've built a new life without you, Cassian, a life where I'm valued and respected and strong. Kieran sees me as an equal, not a liability. He wants me not for political gain, but because he genuinely cares about who I am." "Then why are you here?" Cassian asked desperately. "If he's so perfect, if you've moved on so completely, why come back to see me?" "Because I needed to know," Sarah admitted, and for the first time since she'd entered his office, she looked uncertain. "I needed to see if what I felt for you was real or just the mate bond talking. I needed to know if you regretted your choice, if any part of you still wanted me, and now I know." She turned toward the door, and Cassian felt panic surge through him. "Wait, don't go." "Not yet." Sarah paused but didn't turn back. "There's nothing more to say, Cassian. You've confirmed what I suspected. You regret rejecting me, but not enough to actually do anything about it. You're still choosing duty over destiny, still letting fear dictate your decisions." "I came here hoping," she paused, her voice breaking slightly, "hoping that maybe you'd fight for me this time, that maybe you'd be brave enough to tell the Alliance to go to hell, that you'd undo your false mating with Vivian and claim me the way you should have 3 years ago. But you won't, will you?" Cassian felt his wolf raging against the bars of his own making, felt the truth of her words cutting through all his carefully constructed justifications. "You're right," he said, and it took every ounce of strength he possessed to admit it. "I won't fight for you, not because I don't want to, but because I can't. The Alliance, the Pack, they depend on my union with Vivian. Breaking that bond would cause chaos, would destroy relationships that keep hundreds of wolves safe and prosperous. I can't put my personal happiness above their well-being. Even if it means losing you again, even if it kills me, I can't." The silence that followed was deafening. "Then you've made your choice," Sarah said finally, and this time, when she moved toward the door, she didn't pause. "I'll tell Kieran I accept his offer. Maybe with him I can finally forget what it felt like to be rejected by the one person who was supposed to love me unconditionally." "Sarah, please." Cassian's voice was desperate now, breaking on her name. His wolf was howling in anguish, begging him to stop her, to throw away everything and claim her before it was too late. "What do you want me to say? What do you want me to do?" "I want you to fight," Sarah said, finally turning to face him. Her cheeks were wet with tears, but her eyes blazed with fury and hurt and desperate hope. "I want you to be the alpha your wolf knows you can be, the one who protects his mate above all else. I want you to choose me, Cassian, not because it's politically convenient, but because I'm your person, your other half, your destined mate. But I understand now that you're not capable of that kind of courage. You'll always choose the safe path, the one that keeps everyone else happy while you slowly die inside." She wiped at her tears with angry gestures, So I'm going to do what you taught me, Alpha Thornwood. I'm going to make the hard choice. I'm going to walk away from my true mate and build a life with someone else, someone who actually wants me enough to fight for me. And maybe someday, when you're lying next to Vivian and feeling empty and broken, you'll remember this moment. You'll remember that you had a second chance to choose differently, and you let me walk away again. The door opened, and Sarah stepped into the hallway, her spine straight despite the tremors in her hands. Cassian stood frozen, watching her leave, his wolf screaming at him to stop her, to pull her back, to finally be brave enough to claim what was his. But the weight of his responsibilities, the lives depending on his political alliance, the wolves who would suffer if he broke his word to Silvercrest, kept him rooted in place. "Stop her!" his wolf howled. "Stop her or lose her forever. I'll never forgive you, never speak to you again, you coward, you fool, stop her." Sarah reached the exterior door, her hand on the latch, and for one desperate second, Cassian thought she might turn back, thought she might give him one more chance to be the alpha she needed, but she didn't turn. She pulled the door open and walked out into the fading sunlight, and Cassian felt the fragile thread of their damaged bond stretch taut with the distance. "Do something," his wolf demanded. "Do something now, or accept that you've destroyed both our lives." Cassian's hands clenched into fists, his whole body vibrating with the need to run after her, to throw her over his shoulder like some primitive brute and drag her back to his den, to claim her, mark her, make her his in every way that mattered, and damn the consequences. The alliance will survive without Vivian, his wolf insisted. The pack will adapt, they always do, but you will never recover from this. You will never heal from watching her accept another alpha. Please, please, I am begging you, go after her. Cassian took one step toward the door, then another, his alpha instincts warring with his trained sense of duty. He could still catch her, could still stop this before it was too late, could still. The door to his office burst open, and Vivian swept in, her expression cold and knowing. "Let her go, Cassian," she said flatly. "Whatever romantic notions you're entertaining, let them die right now. You made your choice 3 years ago, and you'll stick with it." "The alliance," Cassian started, but Vivian cut him off with a sharp laugh. "Do you think I'm stupid?" she asked. "Do you think I don't know about your true mate, about the Omega you rejected for me?" "Everyone knows, Cassian. The entire pack knows you've been dead inside since you chose politics over destiny." Her eyes were hard, glittering with something that might have been pain beneath the anger. "But here's what you clearly don't understand. I don't want to be anyone's second choice any more than she does. I agreed to this mating because it served my pack's interests, not because I harbored any illusions about love. But if you think I'm going to stand by and watch you pine after another woman while I play the understanding mate, you're delusional. You made your bed. Now lie in it." Something in Cassian snapped. "You're right," he said, his voice deadly calm. "I did make a choice 3 years ago, and it was the wrong one. I chose duty over my mate, and it's destroyed me. My wolf barely speaks to me. I can't feel anything but emptiness. And the one person who could make me whole is about to accept another alpha because I was too much of a coward to fight for her." Vivian's eyes widened in shock. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying this ends now," Cassian declared, and felt his wolf surge forward in triumphant agreement. "I'm saying I reject this false bond. I reject the alliance built on lies and political convenience. I'm saying that Sarah Ashford is my true mate, chosen by the goddess herself, and I should have fought for her from the beginning." He moved past Vivian toward the door, his heart pounding with the first real emotion he'd felt in years. "You can't be serious," Vivian called after him. "The alliance, your pack, everything you've built, you'll destroy it all for an Omega who's already chosen someone else?" "Then I'll win her back," Cassian said without turning. "I'll prove to her that I'm worth a second chance. And if the alliance crumbles, if the pack loses their political protections, at least I'll face those consequences while being whole instead of spending the rest of my life as half a man. He ran then, his wolf lending him supernatural speed as he tore through the house and out into the courtyard. Sarah was already mounted on her horse, ready to ride away, and Cassian's heart nearly stopped at the sight of her leaving again. "Sarah!" he shouted, his voice carrying the unmistakable command of an alpha. "Stop! Don't leave! Not again!" She turned in her saddle, her expression guarded. "I'm done with games, Cassian. If you have something to say it quickly." "I choose you." The words burst from him in a rush, raw and desperate and absolutely true. "I choose you, Sarah, not because it's politically convenient, not because I've run out of other options, but because you are mine and I am yours, and the mate bond is the most sacred thing our kind possesses. I was a fool to reject it, a coward to let you go, and I'm begging you for another chance." Sarah's hands tightened on the reins, but she didn't dismount. "And the alliance? Your precious political marriage? Your responsibilities to your pack?" "To hell with all of it," Cassian said fiercely, and felt his wolf howl in approval. "I'll dissolve the bond with Vivian. I'll deal with the fallout from Silvercrest. I'll face whatever consequences come from putting my mate before politics. But I will not watch you ride away and bind yourself to another alpha. I will not spend another day dying inside because I was too afraid to fight for what matters most." He moved closer, looking up at her with every ounce of sincerity he possessed. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I hurt you in ways that can't be easily undone. But Sarah, if you give me a chance, if you let me prove that I've learned from my mistakes, I swear to you on everything I hold sacred that I will never choose anything over you again. You will be my first priority, my greatest love, my true mate in every way that matters. I will fight anyone who questions your worth, will build you up instead of tearing you down, and I will spend every day of the rest of our lives showing you that you are exactly what an alpha needs." Sarah sat frozen on her horse, tears streaming down her face as she stared at him. "It's too late," she whispered. "I've already told Kieran I would consider his offer. I've already started building a life without you." "Then tear it down," Cassian begged, his own eyes burning with unshed tears. "Tear it down and build something better with me. I know I don't have the right to ask. I know I've given you every reason to reject me the way I rejected you. But Sarah, my wolf has been silent for 3 years, dead to me because I chose wrong. And the moment you walked into my office today, he came alive again. He recognized his mate, the one person in all of existence who completes us. Please don't condemn us both to half-lives because I was too stupid to see your value from the beginning." The silence stretched between them, heavy with possibility and pain. Cassian could see the war playing out on Sarah's face, hope battling with hurt, desire fighting with self-preservation. He held his breath, knowing that everything depended on her next words. "Why now?" she asked finally, her voice breaking. "Why are you willing to fight for me now when you weren't before? What's changed?" "I've changed," Cassian said honestly. 3 years without you taught me that all the political power and alliance benefits in the world mean nothing if you're empty inside. I thought I was being strong by choosing duty, but I was really just being a coward. You've taught me that real strength isn't about making the safe choice. It's about having the courage to fight for what truly matters, even when the cost is high." He took another step closer, close enough now to touch her boot where it rested in the stirrup. "You matter, Sarah. More than alliances, more than politics, more than my pride or my fears. You matter enough that I'm willing to burn down everything I've built if it means having a chance to build something real with you instead." Sarah closed her eyes, and Cassian could see her trembling with the force of her emotions. "If I stay," she said quietly, "if I give you this chance, things have to be different. I won't be your dirty secret or your second choice. I won't stand in the shadows while you maintain appearances. If you want me, you get all of me. The Omega, who isn't afraid to challenge you, who will demand to be treated as an equal, who will never again settle for being considered less than. And you'll have to prove it, Cassian. Not with words, but with actions. I'll spend the rest of my life proving it, Cassian swore. I'll dissolve my bond with Vivian today, publicly. I'll face the Silvercrest Alliance and explain that I made a mistake, that I bound myself to the wrong person, and I'll deal with whatever fallout comes from that. I'll introduce you to the pack not as an Omega I'm tolerating, but as my true mate, chosen by the goddess and treasured beyond measure. And every day after that, I'll show you through my actions that you are valued, cherished, and protected. Sarah opened her eyes, and Cassian saw the hope there, fragile but real. What about your wolf? She asked. Will he forgive you for what you did? Will he accept me after all this time? Ask him yourself, Cassian said, and for the first time in 3 years, he opened his mind completely to his wolf, letting Sarah feel their connection. Tell our mate how you feel. She is everything, his wolf said, and the words resonated through their shared bond with absolute conviction. She is pack and home and purpose. The alpha was a fool to reject her, but I will never reject her. If she accepts us, if she gives us this chance, I will serve her as loyally as I have ever served anyone. She is my true mate, and I will fight to my last breath to protect her and prove she made the right choice. Tears were flowing freely down Sarah's face now, and slowly, carefully, she dismounted from her horse. She stood before Cassian, so close he could feel her warmth, could smell her scent, could see the rapid pulse at her throat that betrayed how affected she was. I should make you suffer, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I should make you wait and wonder and feel a fraction of the pain you put me through. But the truth is, I never stopped loving you, Cassian. 3 years of training, of building a new life, of trying to convince myself I could be happy with someone else. And I still dreamed about you every night. Still felt the ghost of our bond pulling me back here. Still hoped that maybe, somehow, you'd realize what we could have had. So, against my better judgment, against all my self-preservation, instincts, I'm going to give you this chance. One chance, Cassian. Don't waste it. And then she was in his arms, and Cassian was holding her like she might disappear if he loosened his grip even slightly. His wolf was singing with joy, their bond reforming stronger than before, and Cassian felt the emptiness inside him beginning to fill for the first time in 3 years. Thank you, he whispered against her hair. Thank you for being brave enough to come back, for giving me the chance to make this right. I won't waste it, Sarah. I swear to you, I'll spend every day proving you made the right choice. I'll hold you to that, Sarah replied, pulling back just enough to look into his eyes. And Cassian, if you ever choose duty over me again, if you ever make me feel like I'm your second priority, I'll walk away, and this time I won't come back. No second chances after this. No more forgiveness. This is it. I understand, Cassian said solemnly. This is it. You are my priority, my mate, my future. Everything else comes second. He cupped her face gently, thumbs wiping away her tears. Can I kiss you? Is that allowed? Or do I need to dissolve the false bond first? Kiss me now, Sarah said, her lips curving into the first genuine smile he'd seen from her. Show me that this is real, that I'm not dreaming, that you're really choosing me this time. Cassian didn't need to be told twice. He lowered his head and claimed her mouth with a kiss that was 3 years of longing and regret and desperate need poured into a single point of connection. Sarah melted against him, her arms winding around his neck, and when their lips met, the mate bond blazed between them like wildfire. This was nothing like kissing Vivian, nothing like the clinical, obligatory affection of a political union. This was coming home, finding the missing piece of himself, feeling whole for the first time since he'd made the catastrophic mistake of rejecting her. Sarah tasted like hope and redemption and everything he'd been missing, and Cassian deepened the kiss, pouring all his regret and love and commitment into showing her exactly how much she meant to him. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Cassian rested his forehead against hers. "I need to make this right," he said. "I need to dissolve the bond with Vivian, address the pack, deal with the alliance. It's going to be messy and complicated, and there will be consequences. Are you sure you're ready for that?" "I've spent 3 years preparing for this," Sarah replied with quiet confidence. "I'm not the weak Omega you rejected anymore, Cassian. I'm strong enough to stand beside you through whatever comes. We'll face it together." "Together," Cassian agreed, and the word had never sounded sweeter. He took her hand, threading their fingers together, and led her back toward the house where his false mate waited, and his future hung in the balance. His wolf was singing in his mind, a joyous chorus after 3 years of silence, and Cassian knew that whatever political fallout came from this decision, it was worth it. He'd found his mate again, and this time he wasn't letting her go. The confrontation with Vivian happened in the main hall, with half the pack assembled as witnesses. Cassian had called an emergency council meeting, and when Vivian walked in with her father, Alpha Reginald Silvercrest, the tension in the room was thick enough to cut. "I know why you've gathered us," Vivian said coldly, her eyes flicking to where Sarah stood beside Cassian. "You're going to publicly humiliate me by choosing your little Omega over our alliance. This should be entertaining." "I'm not trying to humiliate anyone," Cassian said firmly, "but I am dissolving our mating bond on the grounds that it was formed under false pretenses. I rejected my true mate to form a political alliance, and that was wrong. I'm correcting that mistake now." Alpha Reginald stepped forward, his face red with fury. "You dare," he sputtered. "You dare break faith with the Silvercrest Alliance, spit on the honor of my daughter, all for some powerless Omega who couldn't even hold your interest 3 years ago?" "This Omega is my true mate," Cassian corrected, his alpha power flooding the room and making several wolves drop to their knees, "and she is far from powerless. While you've been content to maintain your traditional hierarchies, Sarah has been training with the Silver Moon Pack, learning skills and developing abilities that would put most of your warriors to shame. She is strong, capable, and exactly what I need in a mate and Luna." "Lies," Reginald snarled. "I won't stand here and listen to you dress up your betrayal with pretty words about destiny and mate bonds. You made an oath, Alpha Thornwood. You bound yourself to my daughter. Breaking that bond is an act of war." "Then declare war," Cassian said flatly, "because I'm breaking the bond regardless. Vivian, I, Cassian Thornwood, reject you as my mate. Our union is dissolved, effective immediately." Vivian's face went white, and for a moment Cassian saw real hurt flash across her features before she locked it down behind her customary cool mask. "You'll regret this," she said quietly. "Not because I wanted your love. I never had illusions about that, but because you've just made enemies of the most powerful alliance in the Eastern Territories. I hope she's worth it." "She is," Cassian said with absolute certainty, reaching for Sarah's hand. "She's worth everything. The formal dissolution of a mating bond required both parties to verbally accept the separation." Vivian stared at him for a long moment, then at Sarah, and something complicated crossed her face. "I accept your rejection," she said finally. "May you find with her what you could never find with me, though I doubt it will be the fairy tale you're imagining." The moment the words left her lips, Cassian felt the false bond snap. It didn't hurt the way rejecting Sarah had hurt. There was no real connection to Sever, just a political agreement dissolving back into nothing. Vivian turned to her father, who was still sputtering with rage. "We're leaving," she said firmly. "Gather our people. The Silvercrest Alliance is officially dissolved as of this moment. Nightshade Pack will face the consequences of this betrayal." As the Silvercrest wolves began filing out, Cassian felt his beta, Marcus, step up beside him. "You know, this means we'll lose our trade agreements," Marcus said quietly, "our military support, our political influence. The other packs will be watching to see if we survive this." "We'll survive," Cassian said confidently. "We've grown soft relying on alliance politics. It's time we remembered what made Nightshade Pack strong in the first place. Our wolves, our unity, our willingness to fight for what we believe in. And we have something now that we haven't had in years, a Luna who actually gives a damn about this pack." He turned to address the assembled wolves. "I know you're confused, possibly angry, definitely worried about what this means for our future. But I want you to understand something. 3 years ago, I rejected my true mate because I thought political alliances were more important than the bonds the goddess herself creates. I was wrong, and my wolf has been silent ever since, barely speaking to me because I made such a catastrophic choice. Today, I'm correcting that mistake. Today, I'm choosing my mate, my pack's true Luna, over political convenience. And yes, there will be consequences, but we'll face them together, as a pack united, instead of as a collection of wolves bound together by nothing but obligation." He pulled Sarah forward gently. "This is Sarah Ashford. Some of you remember her from 3 years ago. She's returned to us stronger, trained by the Silver Moon Pack, carrying skills and knowledge that will help us adapt and thrive. She is my true mate, chosen by the Moon Goddess, and she will be your Luna. Anyone who has a problem with that can challenge me now or accept it and move forward." The silence was deafening. Then, from the back of the crowd, an older Omega named Margaret stepped forward. She had been one of the few wolves who had shown Sarah kindness during her brief time in the pack, before the rejection. "Welcome home, Luna," Margaret said, dropping into a respectful bow. "We're glad you came back to us." One by one, other wolves began to follow her lead, bowing in acceptance of their new Luna. Not everyone looked happy about it. Cassian could see resistance in some faces, doubt in others, but they were bowing, acknowledging Sarah's position, and that was enough for now. The formal mating ceremony took place 3 days later under the full moon, with Sarah wearing a dress of silver and midnight blue that made her look like a goddess descended to earth. Cassian could barely breathe as he watched her walk toward him through the assembled pack, her silver eyes locked on his face with absolute trust and love. "I, Cassian Thornwood, Alpha of Nightshade, Pack, claim you, Sarah Ashford, as my true mate," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the clearing. "I vow to protect you, to honor you, to value you above all else for the rest of our lives. I vow to fight for you when you need defending, to stand beside you when you need support, and to follow your lead when you see more clearly than I do. You are my mate, my Luna, my other half, and I will never again make the mistake of choosing anything over you." Sarah's eyes were shining with unshed tears as she spoke her own vows. "I, Sarah Ashford, accept you, Cassian Thornwood, as my true mate. I vow to be your partner, your equal, your greatest supporter, and your fiercest critic when you need it. I vow to love this pack as you love them, to lead with wisdom and compassion, and to never let you forget that strength comes in many forms. You are my mate, my alpha, my chosen one, and I will fight beside you through whatever comes." When Cassian marked her, sinking his teeth gently into the junction of her neck and shoulder, the mate bond blazed between them with such intensity that several wolves in the crowd gasped. Cassian felt it, the complete connection, the sense of being whole for the first time in 3 years, the absolute rightness of having his mate in his arms and his mark on her skin. Sarah marked him in return, her smaller teeth leaving his claiming bite on his throat, and Cassian's wolf howled in triumph. Finally, his wolf said, "Finally, you did the right thing. She is ours. We are whole. We are complete." The celebration that followed lasted until dawn, with pack members toasting their new Luna and welcoming Sarah home. But Cassian was barely aware of any of it, his entire focus on the woman in his arms, the way she smiled and laughed and fit perfectly against his side like she'd been made to be there. As the party began to wind down and wolves started drifting toward their homes, Cassian leaned down to whisper in Sarah's ear. "I need to get you alone," he murmured, letting her feel the full weight of his desire through their bond. "I need to show you exactly how much I've missed you, how sorry I am for wasting 3 years, how desperate I am to make you mine in every way possible." Sarah's breath caught, and Cassian felt her arousal spike through their connection. "Then take me to our den, Alpha," she whispered back. "Show me that I made the right choice in giving you this second chance." Cassian didn't need to be told twice. He swept Sarah into his arms and carried her toward the Alpha's residence, ignoring the knowing laughter and wolf whistles from the remaining pack members. The moment they crossed the threshold of their private quarters, he kicked the door closed behind them and claimed Sarah's mouth in a kiss that was pure fire and need. 3 years, he growled against her lips. 3 years I've been dead inside, going through the motions with Vivian, while every cell in my body screamed that I was with the wrong person. But you're here now, Sarah, gasped as Cassian's mouth moved to her throat, kissing and nipping at her sensitive skin. "I'm here, I'm yours, and I'm not going anywhere." Cassian walked them backward until Sarah's back hit the wall, and he pressed against her, letting her feel exactly how much he wanted her. "The dress you're wearing is beautiful," he said roughly, his hands sliding up her sides, "but I need it off. Now. I need to see you, touch you, taste every inch of you, and prove that this is real." Sarah's fingers were already working at the buttons of his formal shirt, her movements urgent and clumsy with need. "Then stop talking and start proving it," she challenged, her eyes dark with desire. "Show me what 3 years of wanting has done to you." Cassian groaned and captured her mouth again, kissing her with desperate hunger as his hands found the fastenings of her dress. The fabric was intricate, designed to be beautiful rather than practical, and after a few seconds of fumbling, Cassian simply tore it, ripping the delicate material and letting it pool at Sarah's feet. She gasped at the show of strength, her arousal flooding the space between them with the scent of her need, and Cassian nearly lost his mind at the evidence of how much she wanted this, wanted him. "You're so beautiful," he breathed, drinking in the sight of her in nothing but scraps of lace that barely qualified as undergarments. "So perfect. I can't believe I almost lost you. Can't believe I was stupid enough to let you go the first time." Sarah's hands finished unbuttoning his shirt and pushed it off his shoulders, her fingers exploring the planes of his chest with obvious appreciation. "You didn't lose me," she said, rising on her toes to kiss along his jaw. "I came back. I gave you another chance. Now, make it worth it." Cassian lifted her easily, her legs wrapping around his waist as he carried her to the bed. He laid her down carefully, despite his desperate need, taking a moment just to look at her. His mate, his Luna, his other half, finally where she belonged. "I'm going to worship every inch of you," he promised, his voice rough with desire and emotion. "I'm going to make you feel so good that you forget every hurt I caused you, every moment of pain from the rejection. I'm going to show you exactly how much you mean to me." "Then stop making promises and start delivering," Sarah challenged breathlessly, her body arching toward him in invitation. Cassian growled and descended on her, his mouth finding the sensitive spot where her neck met her shoulder and working it until Sarah was gasping and trembling beneath him. He could feel her pleasure through the bond, could sense exactly what she needed, and he used that knowledge ruthlessly as he mapped her body with his hands and mouth. His lips traveled lower, finding the swell of her chest and lavishing attention there until Sarah was writhing against the sheets. Her skin was so soft, so responsive, and Cassian took his time learning what made her gasp, what made her arch, what made her cry out his name like a prayer. "Please," Sarah begged, her fingers tangling in his hair. "Cassian, please. I need you closer, need more. Patience," he murmured against her skin, even though his own control was hanging by a thread. "I've waited 3 years for this. I'm not rushing it." He continued his exploration, working his way down her body with deliberate slowness, removing the last scraps of lace, and revealing all of her to his hungry gaze. When he finally settled between her thighs, Sarah was trembling with need, her body so ready for him that Cassian could smell her sweet arousal. "You're so wet for me," he said roughly, his breath ghosting over her most sensitive places. "So ready. Have you been thinking about this? About us together like this?" "Every night," Sarah admitted, her voice shaking. "Every night for 3 years I've dreamed about your touch, your taste, your body claiming mine. Please don't make me wait any more." Cassian couldn't deny her, not when she was begging so sweetly, not when his own need was threatening to consume him. He lowered his head and tasted her, his tongue finding her slick heat and exploring with dedicated thoroughness. Sarah cried out, her hips bucking against his mouth, and Cassian held her steady as he worked her toward her peak. She tasted like heaven and home, and everything right in the world, and Cassian couldn't get enough. He alternated between slow, teasing licks and more focused attention on her swollen pearl, using the bond to feel exactly when she was getting close and then backing off just enough to keep her on the edge. "Please." Sarah was sobbing now, her hands fisting in the sheets. "Cassian, please. I need to finish. I need you. Please don't tease me." "Let go," he commanded against her heated flesh. "Come for me, mate. Show me how good I make you feel." His mouth closed around her pearl, and he sucked firmly while his fingers found her entrance and pressed inside, curving to find that perfect spot, and Sarah shattered with a scream that Cassian was certain the entire pack could hear. He worked her through it, prolonging her pleasure until she was shaking and oversensitive, and only then did he pull back to watch her come down from the high. "You're so beautiful when you climax," he said roughly, moving back up her body. "I want to see that again, want to feel you falling apart around me." Sarah's eyes were glazed with satisfaction but still hungry. "Then get inside me," she demanded, her legs wrapping around his hips. "No more teasing, no more waiting. I need you now, Cassian. I need to feel you claim me, mark me, make me yours in every way." Cassian groaned and positioned himself at her entrance, the heat of her body calling to him like a siren song. He pushed inside slowly, letting her adjust to his size, and the sensation of finally being joined with his mate after 3 years of emptiness nearly made him lose control. "You feel perfect?" he breathed, fighting to stay still and let her body accommodate him. "Like you were made for me, like we were always meant to fit together like this." "Move," Sarah commanded, her hips rolling against his. "Please, Cassian, I need you to move." Cassian pulled back and thrust home again, setting a rhythm that had them both gasping. The mate bond blazed between them, allowing them to feel each other's pleasure, and it created a feedback loop that intensified everything. Cassian could feel what his movements did to her, could sense when he hit the perfect angle or the ideal pace, and he used that knowledge to drive her higher and higher. "Harder," Sarah begged, her nails raking down his back. "I won't break. I need you to let go, need to feel all of you." Cassian's control snapped, and he began to move with the full force of his alpha strength, pounding into her with desperate need. Sarah matched him thrust for thrust, her body rising to meet his, and the sounds she made drove him absolutely wild. "You're mine," he growled, feeling his release building. "Say it, Sarah. Tell me you're mine." "I'm yours," Sarah cried out, her body starting to tighten around him. "Only yours. Always yours, Cassian. Please. I'm so close. Come with me," Cassian commanded, one hand sliding between their bodies to find her pearl. "Come now, mate. Show me. Sarah shattered with a scream, her body clenching around him, and Cassian followed her over the edge with a roar of completion. He spilled inside her, claiming her in the most primal way possible, and through the bond, he felt her satisfaction at being filled, at being marked and claimed and possessed. They collapsed together, both breathing hard, bodies still joined and trembling with aftershocks. Cassian rolled them carefully so Sarah was draped across his chest, unwilling to separate from her even for a moment. "That was," Sarah started, her voice dreamy and satisfied. "That was everything," Cassian finished, pressing a kiss to her sweaty forehead. "Worth 3 years of waiting, worth every political consequence, worth anything and everything just to have you here in my arms." Sarah lifted her head to look at him, her silver eyes soft and full of love. "I forgive you," she said quietly, "for the rejection, for the pain, for all of it. I understand why you made the choices you made, even if I don't agree with them. And I choose to let go of the past and build a future with you instead." "Thank you," Cassian said, his voice rough with emotion. "I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret giving me this chance." They lay tangled together in comfortable silence for a while, basking in the afterglow and the perfect rightness of finally being together. Cassian's wolf was purring with contentment. All the broken pieces from their 3-year separation finally healed. "We should probably talk about what happens next," Sarah said eventually. "The alliance dissolving, the political fallout, how we're going to keep the pack safe without Silvercrest's support." "Tomorrow," Cassian said firmly, tightening his arms around her. "Tonight is just for us, for celebrating this bond, for making up for lost time. The pack and politics can wait until sunrise." Sarah smiled and snuggled closer. "I like the way you think, Alpha." "Then prepare yourself," Cassian warned with a wicked grin, "because I plan on keeping you in this bed until we've made up for every single day of the past 3 years. That's over 1,000 days of lost time. I hope you're prepared for a marathon, Luna." "Bring it on," Sarah challenged, her hand sliding down his chest with clear intent. "I'm not the fragile Omega you remember. I can handle anything you give me." Cassian groaned as her touch reignited his desire. "You're going to be the death of me," he said, rolling them over so he was above her again. "And I'm going to die the happiest Alpha in existence." He proved his devotion thoroughly over the following hours, taking her again and again in different positions and locations throughout their quarters until they were both exhausted and sated and completely bonded in every way possible. As dawn began to lighten the sky, they finally allowed themselves to rest, curled together in perfect contentment. The following weeks brought exactly the political chaos Cassian had expected. The Silvercrest Alliance formally denounced Nightshade Pack, several smaller packs followed their lead, and trade agreements that had sustained them for years evaporated overnight. But Cassian and Sarah faced it together, working with their pack to find new solutions and forge new alliances with more progressive packs who valued true mate bonds over political convenience. Sarah proved to be an incredible Luna, using the skills she'd learned from Silver Moon Pack to train their warriors in new techniques and establish trade relationships that didn't require them to compromise their values. She also worked to improve conditions for the pack's Omegas, implementing programs that gave them more training opportunities and recognizing that strength came in many forms. The pack, seeing their Alpha and Luna's genuine partnership and the way the bond between them made Cassian a better leader, rallied behind them. Within 6 months, Nightshade Pack was stronger than it had been under the Alliance, united by genuine loyalty rather than political obligation. One evening, as Cassian and Sarah stood on the balcony of their quarters watching the sunset over Pack territory, Sarah placed his hand on her still flat stomach with a small smile. "We're going to have a pup," she said softly. "I found out from the healer this morning." Cassian's breath caught, his wolf howling with joy at the news. "A pup," he breathed, pulling Sarah into his arms. "Our pup, the first of many, if you're willing." "I'm willing," Sarah assured him, her eyes sparkling. "I want to build a family with you, Cassian. Want to raise children who understand that strength comes from love and loyalty, not just from power and dominance." "We're going to raise incredible children," Cassian said with conviction, "strong and kind, and brave enough to fight for what they believe in, just like their mother." He kissed her tenderly, pouring all his love and gratitude into the gesture. "Thank you for coming back to me," he whispered against her lips. "Thank you for giving me a second chance when I didn't deserve it. Thank you for being brave enough to risk your heart again." "You gave me a life I never thought I could have," Sarah replied, resting her head against his chest. "A mate who truly values me, a pack that respects me, a future full of possibilities. How could I not come back for that?" As they stood wrapped in each other's arms, watching the stars begin to appear, Cassian reflected on how drastically his life had changed. 3 years ago, he had been dead inside, bound to the wrong person, his wolf silent and his heart empty. He had convinced himself that duty was more important than destiny, that political alliances mattered more than the sacred bonds the goddess created. But Sarah had shown him the truth, that real strength came from having the courage to choose love over convenience, from fighting for what truly mattered instead of settling for what was safe. She had given him a second chance he hadn't earned, and he had spent every day since proving he deserved it. The alpha who had rejected his mate bond had lost his wolf's voice and nearly lost himself. But the alpha who chose his true mate over politics had found something far more valuable. He had found his other half, his partner, his purpose, and together they were building something that would last for generations. As Sarah's hand rested on their growing child and the mate bond hummed with contentment between them, Cassian sent up a silent prayer of thanks to the moon goddess for her wisdom in bringing Sarah back to him, for giving him the chance to correct his greatest mistake, for showing him that sometimes the most powerful thing an alpha can do is admit he was wrong and fight to make it right. His wolf stirred in his mind, no longer silent, but singing with joy. "We are whole," his wolf said with deep satisfaction. "We have our mate, we will have our pup. We have become the alpha we were always meant to be, the one who leads with both strength and heart. We are finally complete." And as Cassian held his mate close and felt their child growing beneath his palm, he knew his wolf was absolutely right. They were complete, they were home, and they were exactly where they belonged,